So we have Dave Z here. What's up, man?
What's happening?
Thanks for jumping on. So this is going to sound to us just like a normal phone call that we have probably once every 2 weeks where we're just talking about building our businesses and strategies. I feel like you're always the one on the calls teaching me. So one day maybe I'll be on the call helping you out. So
I can understand why you would say that, but we both know that's not true. And I think it's more than every 2 weeks, maybe every 10 days.
okay, we'll go with that. So hey, I wanted to, Dave, bring you on because we've been having some conversations, and sometimes we're having some conversations on the phone or when we see each other at masterminds, and you're just someone who's always like challenging the status quo, and something could be working really well for you, but you're always looking for like the next step. And what I like about your brain is you can be in a spot where like you're comfortable, but you're still looking for the next angle of like, where is there more profitability in the company? And I think that's a really rare thing for people because they're sitting at their company like, hey, everything's good, right? Making good money, this is working. But then I feel like you're someone who just sits down and looks maybe at a spreadsheet or your whole entire business or philosophy and just say like, how could this be better? So we've had some calls lately, and obviously anybody who's listened to the podcast for a long time, you taught me the showing partner model. And anybody can listen to that previous podcast that we did probably like 6-7 months ago on how the details of that worked. But now you're going into a different direction with it. And, it was more of a, hey, salaried showing partner, pay them, some commission through title.
Yep.
And that was changed my world, man. And then all of a sudden, right when I get comfortable with this new world and it's working, Dave's like, here's a new idea. And I'm like, whoa. And then you start texting me these texts and it's like, oh, now I'm at 94% profit on a buyer, and then some spreadsheets. And I call those receipts. You send me some pictures and I'm like, okay, I'm like challenge accepted. So that's why I brought you on, man. So let's go from there. What's going on? What's new in your world?
Yeah. Well, hey man, thanks for having me on. I love your show. I love doing this. You're a good friend of mine. And when we were out the other night, I sent you and Brittany the Working Genius. We talked a little bit about that. So if nobody here has ever taken the test on a Working Genius, do it. And my Working Genius is wonder and galvanizing. So I'm a wonderer. So I'm not an innovator, but I like to, just like you said, I like to think about things and wonder how it could be different. So I spend a lot of time by myself, like wondering stuff. I'll be out on the patio having a cigar. My wife will tap the window. She's like, your lips are moving. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just thinking about stuff. So
best conversation you had all day,
right?
huh?
I'm just talking to myself. And so that's my gift of wonder. Yeah, and I promise you, one of your gifts, we usually have two, is tenacity. Like, you're the most tenacious person I've ever met. So you may help me more than you realize, because I just see how you get after it, like so hardcore. Whatever you're going to do, that's not my gift. So here's what I would tell anybody: find what your gifts are, and then find other people with those other gifts and lean on them. So I lean on people who are tenacious, both in my world, to get things done for me, so I can sit there and wonder. It's like, it's a fair trade, right? Like, you play to your strengths and not your weaknesses. So anyways, that leads into, me thinking about how can I do something different? So I'd love to take an idea that somebody's doing and then break it apart and try to wonder about how we can do it differently. So that takes longer than you would think. It's taken me, I did that podcast on showing partner like 18 months ago?
It was a
Probably.
while. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're talking about the one that I was listening
I did
to.
one with Kevin Kaufman.
Yeah. So that was probably, 18, 19 months ago. Cause I heard that podcast, reached out to you, helped me build my showing partner. And then here we are now.
Yeah. Now I've scrapped it. You couldn't pay me to go back to that other model. So it's not like it happened overnight. It took a lot of hard lessons and good lessons. And so where I've transitioned, and here's what happened. Here's what I've discovered is, there's a tremendous freedom in the showing partner model. Would agree, right? You've gotten a lot of freedom back in your life. You've gotten leverage. You're able to help more clients. You're pouring into your showing partner. And I think you've just hired a really good one. And that could have been where I failed, was I didn't hire as well. But I also got really clear with me what my deep intentions were, right? What my intentions are: to sell a lot of real estate, help a lot of people that want help, and to make a lot of money and be present for my family. So once I knew what I wanted, I could see what was getting in the way or what was helping. And even though the showing partner was helping, it was getting in the way more, both financially and from my time, right? So let's, so if we look at the showing partner model, and I still think it's a great iteration, and it has a lot of merit, and I'm not saying it should go away, but for somebody like me, it needed to go away. And what
I think it's something we can note too, that like, that's what I'm saying. Like you don't sit in a comfortable zone. Like right now I can look at, just like you said, and it's working way better for me right now, my life and my business, than it was 2 years ago before I did it. So it's like it's always cool because you're challenging it. So people are probably thinking like, oh, did it not work? And it's like, no, like it works. It's just works. You're looking at it like, hey, there was still some challenges. There's never not challenges, right? It's like something can still be making you money, still something can work. You're just looking at like, can it be better? And I like that's the angle that you say, can this make more money? Can this be better for the consumer?
Yeah.
And can this whole process for my life be better? So like that's what, like I think that's the coolest part, because most people just sit there and they're like, oh, this is good. I think it's cool when people like can kind of blow up something when it's actually good, and you're just saying, I want it to be better, instead of like, I don't want anybody to think that it's something that like doesn't work. It's just there's levels to the game, and I think you're on the next level.
Well, I think good can be the enemy of great, right? And I think it can be really great. I think it'd be
perfectly said.
Children. Like, this is great for my children. What I'm doing now is so much better for them, but it may not be as good for the other people. But let's talk about that, because all right, so let's start with showing partner model. You're paying somebody a salary, you're going to give them parts of the commission, you're getting a lot of leverage. If you're going to do the showing partner right, you want to be training a future rock star, right? You want to be training somebody that's going to go into real estate and eventually leave you. I believe if you do it the right way. So that comes with two sides of the coin. If you're getting leverage, but you're getting a lot of liability. You have a monthly salary. This is where I've talked with a lot of agents, and they slow down. They're like, every month I pay the salary, every month I pay the gas.
It's the biggest stumbling block, man. It's like when I talk to a lot of realtors, and like I explain to them what I'm doing, and I can see the second I bring up salary, the game is over. So I've realized now that not every realtor is a business owner thinker. Like you and I, when I was introduced to you and heard your podcast, I was already used to like some payroll and stuff. And I owned a business in my youth. And so like having like a payroll was normal. And so, but I think for a lot of people, like if they might not even be paying themselves a payroll. So like even having that whole process in their business sounds like daunting and overwhelming.
No, the whole thing is, and not everybody is, and that's a good thing. And it's not a character flaw. It's like we just are who we are. I believe God created us to be who we are, and like, let's not try to be something we're not. And so totally fine to recognize that. And like, I've sat with people who have paid out their buyer's agents $120,000. And when I show them that it's going to save them 80 grand, they're like, but I'm not willing to pay $3,000 a month. It's like, okay, like you'll pay him 10 grand a month on the backside, but not $3,000 up front. And I'm not going to fight that. Like, it's fine. It's not a battle worth fighting. So yeah, you have that commitment of, do I want to be a business owner? Do I want HIPAA laws? Do I want unemployment? Do I want all of that stuff if you want leverage? So here's what I've seen now, having been around the model for 5 or 6 years. Your best people are going to leave you. They are going to leave you. So you're going to pour into somebody as a showing partner, and eventually they're like, thanks for everything, Chris. You've like changed my life, but now I'm good on my own. And there's a lot of time that went into that person if you do it the right way. Okay. And then there's limited there's limited availability of your showing partner. So let's just say you have one showing partner, they're seeing a home, they're showing one of your clients' homes at 2:00 today, and then another person wants to see it at 2:30. What do? You have to either tell that person, right, like, no, we can't do it now, we'll do it later, or you step in and do it. So it's like having, like, you don't know about Uber, and you get one friend who's willing to Uber drive you, and you're like, this is awesome. And you're trying to tell people about Uber drive, like this guy, and then you're like, hey, can you take me to the airport tomorrow? He's like, tomorrow I'm going to be with my mom. Can we do it another day? You're like, no, I need it tomorrow. Right now you're stuck because you don't have the scalability. So moving from the showing partner to the model that I'm now running, I have about 900 agents that will show homes within a 2-minute notice with 100% acceptance rate. Okay, so now I went from having 2 showing partners at $3,000 a month, plus all of that other stuff, benefits and gas, and to even that they couldn't accommodate everybody, to one day I had 6 buyers out looking at homes with 6 different people. You couldn't do that in a showing partner model when it's a partner. So now once you scale it like Uber, well, I like my Uber drivers. You know, I'm usually pretty friendly, but yesterday I booked a listing call because I got a one of my portal companies, you know, Homelight, Zillow, all those, they called me with the listing, and I had an 18-minute ride because I had a nail in my tire. So I'm in an Uber yesterday. And I'm like, hey man, do you mind if I take this call? And I booked the listing inside the Uber. I didn't say goodbye to the guy and I didn't feel bad. And I don't think he felt bad, right? Like there's no attachment to that Uber driver. That's now what I have inside the model I'm running now. Instead of it being a partner, I have a network of agents who don't need training, don't need my time, don't need accountability. The training I poured into 6 different showing partners was massive, massive. Mm-hmm. So it was liability with a ton of accountability, my time, or that leverage that I was getting, I was pouring back, I would say, more into those people with my systems and trainings and phone calls and teaching them. So now that I'm not teaching and training and hiring and managing, guess what? I'm looking at my spreadsheet, and then we said we get into those numbers. I as of right now, with what I've booked with this model, I have $93,708 of buyer commission, and I am keeping $91,680.70. That is 97.59% of the commission. It's cost me $1,337, and not one of those clients ever heard the word no from me. And I tell them that when you work with me, you will see a home the exact minute you want to see it, 7 days a week.
And so say those numbers one more time, because I think they need it. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to hear is those numbers.
Yep. So these are the buyer deals I have. And what is this, February 10th? So from January to here, I got $93,708 of buyer commission. That is in escrow. I think one just closed. And that cost me $39 a door. So all those buyers went out and we did a total of $1,337. So I don't know what the math is there. How many doors at $39, right? Was that 30 doors, maybe 50 doors?
That's the thing, Dave, where that's where I want everyone to hear that, because the old, you know what I mean? We can even take this back to, you know, the buyer's agent model. I don't know when that came out. I've been doing real estate for 17 years. It was kind of already there. And it's okay. That was more of like a 50-50 split, right? And then it's just kept getting changed over time. Makes sense. Every other industry's changed, right? So I think when some people look at real estate, they're like, why is this changing? I'm like, every other real estate has. Why wouldn't we do it? And so, you know, a lot of people think like, hey, I'm going to bring someone on a 50-50. You know how many teams are probably still out there right now on like these 50-50 splits when most of the work is being like driven in by the quote unquote rainmaker? For you just to say those words and to think that like 50,000 of that could have went to a buyer's agent and 50,000 could have went to you. We're talking 45 days or so. This is life-changing money over a 20-year career. It could be make or break of your whole entire financial future of wealth, retirement, assets. But then I even think take it onto a lower scale. Let's just say somebody's closing one transaction. It's easy to say oh, Dave's closing all these deals, right? But if someone's closing one transaction, the numbers were almost still the same, right? It's you would have, that person would have made a $12,000 commission and you would have gave away $300 or $400 maybe at max to go, have someone help you show homes. So dude, that's cool to see your numbers. I love that.
I think the numbers just make it eye-popping because it is true. Now, I don't care what level of production you're at. I think this is the right model to run. If I were to start anybody in real estate today, I would start this day one. Guess what? Welcome to real estate. You're never going to go open a door. And I know that sounds weird, but what I have learned in this whole process, talking to all of these clients, right, in the last 3 years, I mean, I don't know my exact numbers, but it's probably close to 400 closings in the last 3 years, typically around 140, 150 a year, 125, I think something somewhere in there. I can pull them up, but we're talking over 100 units a year. Not one person says, Dave, this just isn't going to work for me. So yeah, had I run it on a buyer's agent model, it would have been $46,853 gone.
Wow.
Yeah. Not only that, the future relationship is gone.
Yeah.
Because hey, Chris, I'm super busy. Would you take Stephanie for me?
Yeah.
Now, Stephanie are going to run, and there's so much future revenue lost. And to be honest, I think you and I we're in the positions we're at. We're both over 17 years in this business. We're really good at what we do, and we should be driving the ship. We should be the captains flying the airplane. Like, we're not going to steer our clients wrong. We're going to negotiate better. So our time is better served there than actually handing it off. And so many people who get burnt out in this industry, they just want to ship that off. And I think you said it well the other day. You were like, it's not the meetings that we're afraid of. It's the unplanned, unscheduled meetings that pop up that derails your expectations for the day. And after 10 years, you're like, kind of sick of my Sundays getting derailed.
That's
the way I make money, but I also want to be doing other things with my time. So when someone texts you at 10 o'clock, like, you think we can see homes today? Happy was like, dang it. Yes, but shoot. Right. And
yeah.
not have that feeling anymore ever again. And now the model I run involves VAs impersonating me, doing all of this. So I literally have a buyer that came into my world, incubated by my system, incubated by my inside sales agent, booked on the site through our model. The VA scheduled it, all that happened, and then I jumped in and then negotiated it and never went out to the house. Like, the time spent transacting it was so minimal that if anybody's been handing off their sales to an agent, they have no idea how it's actually easier than to follow up with your agent about the leads you're giving them. Like you're gonna spend some time in the business. This is easier. So back to kind of what I was saying, like, I don't care how many transactions you're doing, you will do far more if, one, you don't leave your house or office to go out into the field. And I think we just like to feel like we're earning our work, like we're opening emails and we're responding to things and we're driving out there. Like, people are still putting signs on their own properties, like just something to feel like they're working. And it could be a grind to just stay in lead conversion and lead generation. But if you stop, even if you're listening to this, you're like, well, I only sell 6 homes a year. I bet you can sell 20 if you stop showing any of those houses.
Well, I think that's important to note, Dave, is like, because when I go to coffee or talk to somebody on a Zoom, like a realtor, and we're talking about business, I see a lot of them because I can just tell by just the energy. Like, when we talk about like the production that I do or like you do, they almost get they have this feeling of yeah, they're just like, oh my gosh, they almost like, oh, I would never do that. And what I found out the other day is I sat down and I thought, I was like, man, where does this come from? When they're like, I could never do that. And I thought, it's their model they have couldn't do that many, so they're thinking like, oh, I'm already missing baseball games. I'm already missing church. I'm already like, I can't get to dinner. I'm waking up. I don't know how to close these transactions and keep up with life. So the 12 units with their model,
it would crush their life.
They're saying that if I can't keep up with it at 12, like, how am I going to keep up with it at 70? And so this is that plug and play where it's like, I think some people aren't getting more business in the day. Like, they could if they wanted to, but your brain actually isn't allowing you to. Like, there's 100%. I remember when I first got my license, I would hear people talking about real estate somewhere, and I wouldn't lean into the conversation at the party because I wasn't confident with what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So if someone called me, it was like, cool, but like, I couldn't go get in the middle of the mix. And so now, though, as I've gotten more confident in real estate, like, you're talking real estate at a restaurant 7 tables down, I'm like, hey, like, I'm here. What do you got for me? So I just think it's like, it's learning that, like, it's like you've got to be able to build and you got to get confident in something. And I think that there's realtors out there, like, they don't want more buyers because if I get another buyer, it takes away from my life. And this is that plug and play where you can say like, hey, you said you have a network of agents that will go show homes for you. So if you got 20 more buyers today, your life doesn't go up. Your work life doesn't like get crazy. Now, you'll probably have a few more phone calls because you have more work, but it didn't get running around.
I think we're all okay with that. Like, in this business, it really comes down to, I only make money if a home closes escrow, and I only make money if I have to go out to the home. And that's the limited thinking that we have to change and say, there's a better way. And, I sent you an image over the weekend about spinning the wheel. Like, I'm spinning the wheel to see who in my database wants to go see a home. Now, this is like Saturday morning. I've got 5 kids and my wife, and we do, family cleanup. And I was like, hey, I'm not cleaning with you guys. I'm going to sit at the dining room table and watch y'all and manage it. And I gave them all their checklist. I booked 2 appointments that day because it wasn't going to be me showing it. So your enthusiasm for the activity goes through the roof.
Yes.
Where if you really are like, man, I got to make money, but my family is just looking at me being gone all the time and missing out on stuff. But what do? You're stuck in that catch-22. That comes across in your prospecting.
There you go.
The prospect as much. So once you remove yourself from the energy draining activities of actually showing houses, you'll want to show more houses and your buyer activity will go through the roof.
You said my jumbled thought that I just said for a minute. You interpreted it the correct way. That's exactly what I was trying to say. So I'm just going to start calling you and saying, hey, here's my idea and thought. And then you can just put it together.
I'll be your chat GPT because I'll respit it out for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, is that you almost don't want to go in and lead generate because you're just like,
your subconscious will always win.
That's what I was trying to say. Like, you don't want to go in and get more work, where like when you have something where it's like, hey, these people are going to go show homes, you almost go in there with the energy because you're like, wow, whether I do 40, 60, 80, 120 transactions there. And then you don't have to worry about the whole, what I've loved about this model since you helped me with the showing partner is you don't get lost in those conversations anymore that we used to have, like over like what's your listing and buyer ratio. Like, remember, like that used to be a big deal like 8 years ago. Like, I remember having coaches and like, well, I mean, you're like 70% buyers and 30% listings. You need to switch that. And I'm like, I don't even want to spend my energy in the day trying to switch that. Like, that's what my network's giving me. Like, for me to try to figure that out is so like, it's just too much work. I don't care to do it.
Here's what's really weird, man. I was a dominant listing agent for my business. I don't want to say I was a dominant in the market. I'm just saying when I look at my 1,300
in your business, yeah,
my business out of those were dominantly listings. Why? Because I believe it's 4-to-1, the time ratios. In the old way, you would work 4 times more for a buyer than you would for a listing. I'm going to tell you right now, with this new model that I have, I bet it's 6-to-1 listings to buyers. Now listings take me 6 times more than it takes me with buyers, where when the MREA book came out, we outsourced our buyer activity because it was 4-to-1. It is flipped. I will tell anybody today, far easier for me to work a buyer than a listing. Mm-hmm. The listing prep, the consultation, the price strategy, the staging, to get ready. Like, I've got my contractor prepping 3 homes right now to get listings ready to go. With buyers, the way I have it set up with my VAs and my systems, and I don't do any paperwork. I don't do any contracts. Like this sounds too good to be true, but I can teach any agent to do this. Like, a lead comes in that you don't have to talk to, that you can get an AI system to convert for you. You can get them on a quick phone call, understand what they're looking for. The VA will then book their showings for them. You're then able to get on the phone, do a quick comp and price it. And then you can just chat that over to your VA and say, this is how the offer is going to be written. And you don't write the offer. You don't do, all of this can be outsourced and systematized to where your time involvement, you'll probably be $3,000 to $4,000 an hour on a buyer side is what your net income will be. And if we focus on dollar per hour, that's how we can really grow and scale. Not how much did I make on this deal, but I'm making $3,000 an hour on this deal. Then you'll try to do as many of those as you can. And it's an easy life.
And here's the thing real quick, just because like you use the word VA and systems and this and that. And I know like some people who hear this, like that can sound complex because you say that so casually because you've grown to a level. I say some things casually sometimes where someone's like, I don't know. And I go to masterminds where people are talking. I'm like, I don't even know what they're saying. Like it's so above my level of thinking at the time. So like, I want to take this to an agent, let's say that's doing 10, 12, 13 transactions a year. And I want them to note that there doesn't have to be a VA and there doesn't have to be all these systems. Like you could just still be whatever you're doing right now. It could just be setting up you could be having the consultation with your referral you got on a Zoom or in person and setting up that MLS portal like you always have and telling them, hey, check, click on the save button or screenshot them like you're probably going to do anyways and text them to me. Whatever your system is right now is do that. And then just have in your consultation, all you say in your consultation is you just tweak it a little bit. But here's the deal is this is the biggest thing I think is some people have never had consultations with buyers before. So when we're talking about this, they're thinking of how would I ever they're just sometimes getting a referral from somebody, meeting them at that house the first time. So they're like, how would someone else just meet them at the house? That's weird. So how their model's working right now, it seems weird. So if you just listen to some stuff that I teach on consultations. Like that's all, that's really the only thing you're missing is when you get a referral, don't just talk to them for 5 minutes on the phone and then go show them a house. It's do a Zoom, do a Zoom for 30, 45 minutes where you talk about your process and you just interject right there, like how showings happen. And the second you can confidently speak to somebody about your process, you're elevated to a new level where they actually are confident with how you do it. And they feel like that's the same service you're going to give to their buddy or their grandma. And I find that the ones who are doing consultations and doing businesses like you, maybe, and I think that's why we get more and more referrals, because it's not willy-nilly. They know like, whoa, I went through a process with them. And if I refer my grandma, they're going to get on a consult. It's not just run out to the house, show homes at the party. It's, hey, let's dial this down. Loans, interest rates, houses. What do you want? This is how our system works. This is the structure. How do your work hours work? These are how my work hours work. You know, but I want to go back to that so people don't think it's all like, you don't have to have like 7 people for this operation. Just start with where you're at and go from there.
If you want to do $1 million of buyer GCI, you will, but you can build that. But no, you should start at 100%. You're right. Yeah. And that's why you're the host of the podcast, not me.
Oh, dude, that's good. So where do you see right now with, you know, you had the showing partner salaried. Now you're on the, just you have a network of agents that you're using. Where do you see your biggest challenges happening right now? Because there's always the pros, there's always the cons. Usually when we lean into something, it's always there's more pros than cons. I think it's interesting when someone thinks there's never going to be a con in something, even though you're still doing it. Where do you see any like pushback?
Yeah, that's a good question. When
they start charging you $90 a showing, like when it turns into a utility for agents like us, and then it flips the script and they're like, now we want 90, or the showing agents go on a strike.
I mean, it's all dollars and cents, and you evaluate it, and that's a real possibility. But here's what I know: there's 63,000 licensed agents in Arizona, and so I had a buyer going to escrow that weekend. When I texted you on Saturday, spinning the wheel, I actually ended up getting 2 because one just went under contract yesterday from that weekend. So that was a $37,000 weekend for me, just by getting excited about asking people to go see homes that I didn't have to show. But I had a kid who's newly licensed show a client 3 houses, and he did it in like 30 minutes because my client's like, well, I just want to go see these 3 and I'll take 5 minutes per home. Literally did. So that kid made, $120 in 30 minutes, and he's brand new in real estate. I bet that was a good feeling for him. Like, oh my gosh, I made $120.
Yeah.
Now I made 37,000, but it's because it's my client and it's my system. But there was a win-win. So that where there's going to be some pushback, and you brought some, blind spots to me, is when you do have a client that needs a lot of hand-holding and needs more things, like new builds are a great example. I don't know if I can take my network. Now, my showing partners all registered my new builds. I'm sure yours does too. So can I get these to do it? Maybe, but it's more, since I use it like an Uber service, maybe they can. I've never tried it, to be honest. I have an agent that said, well, I've got somebody who's looking in active adult, and I wanted to take them to the clubhouses and do all that stuff and show them all the clubhouses. Now, here's my deal with that. Why can't they go to the clubhouse themselves if you just give them the address and tell them where it's at? Like, I think, again, I see people needing to validate they are.
Yes.
I'm not worth anything less, but it's also, like, you nailed it. My consultation, whether it's Zoom or phone, lays out the expectations. I get clarity, and then I get agreement. Every consultation I do has a closing question on it, always. And it's usually like, so I'll explain the situation, how I work, what I do and what I don't do. And this is where I see agents trip up, is when they don't believe in this model of either letting other people show for a fee or have a showing partner. They'll say things like this, like, it's either going to be me or somebody else. I think that's a terrible way to set it up, because you're saying it's going to be me, but if I'm too busy or I don't like you, it's going to be somebody else.
Yes.
And you set yourself up for disappointment and unmet expectations. My clients know, hey, I'm going to always do this. And the one thing I don't do is go out to the houses for you. So here's the benefit. You're going to get a lot of transactions. Whether you're new or not, you're going to say you get a realtor like me who doesn't work alone. I get to do more home sales. That's a benefit to you because I see the market better. And then you're always going to see a home whenever you want to. It's just not going to be with me. Will that work for you? Is there any reason this would not work for you? That is what I ask every single person. And I get their buy-in, and they're never disappointed. And in fact, they're happier. And at the end of the closing, they usually tell me, you were so great to work with because we never heard the word no from you. Like, we texted you on a Sunday at 2 and you said, no problem. You can go back and measure for that fridge at 3 o'clock. And how easy is it for me to spend $39 to let somebody go measure a fridge versus me drop whatever I'm doing? And so then we stop serving our people because we don't like going out there, or we just can't. And so I believe I'm running, like, somebody could listen to this and be like, man, this guy just doesn't like to serve people or love them. I believe I'm loving and serving people at the highest level because they get what they want when they want it.
You are, because you've put value, like, just because there's 19 things in a process from beginning to end to help somebody doesn't mean you have to like put all the importance on that. So like, just because showing homes is 80% of the buyer work doesn't mean that it has to take the realtor 80% of their energy. Just because like that's the most time consuming part of a buyer transaction is showing them homes. And it's like we said earlier, like I'm not opposed to work. I probably work more than most. You probably work, a lot. It's just, I don't like so the next thing that people are going to say is like, oh, I've heard it in inspections and final walkthroughs. And that's where I say like, hey, here's the deal. Don't even go to that land yet. Like, you're wanting all in, just get a little bit of leverage and taste it. And then you'll just see what that does for your life and see if that takes you to the next step. Don't go all in. Still go to your inspection if you want. Still go to your final walkthrough, because I don't think people wake up in the day and say, okay, it's Friday, right? We're recording this on Friday. I don't think anybody wakes up and says, okay, Tuesday at 2 p.m., I've got an inspection. I don't think that gives anybody anxiety. It's on the calendar. Right. They're planning their family vacation around it. It's when they wake up, like right now we're recording this, it's 8:48. If I look at my phone right now and someone, for the last hour we've been doing this, if someone texts me and said, hey, Chris, can we go see this at 10? Like, I would have got off this Zoom and I would be like, oh my gosh, like I missed it. And then, so if I missed it, now I'm on cue that when I was bowling with my wife last night, because if I would have missed this one, right? Then you're in this anxiety mode where like, oh, when I do really important things, I go back to my phone and I miss something. And so now you feel like, okay, while I'm at date night or at church, I have to always be looking at my phone because the last time I was doing this important thing, it was 2 hours, 3 hours, I missed it. And they were kind of upset. And then I had to explain like, oh, I was at church and I do, or I do date night with my wife. It eliminates a lot of these anxieties that I don't think are necessary. And I don't think that people are like, I'm never saying I don't want to work. I like to wake up knowing what was in my calendar. And I already know as a realtor, I'm going to get thrown 3 curveballs in the day that are high dollar curveballs that I don't want to deal with 17, other curveballs that I feel like could have easily been solved by me not just getting on the phone with people.
100%.
And what I liked I love how you challenge me when we talk on the phone, because, or at the last mastermind, I came there ready. I had like notes. I was like, all right, Dave, this is all the things I thought of. This is all the things so it was new builds, right? And you were like, okay. But what you said is like, you said, what part of the new build is the hard part? And I said, well, because we don't really have like a good database for it, right? Like you've got to almost like go find them. And then you said, well, why couldn't one of your assistants do all that research? Right. Because really, like that's what you're saying. Your showing partner is doing that research. Because are you, Chris? And I'm like, nope, not doing it, right? So he's like, he's doing it, and then he's going out and showing them homes. So it's like, could she do it? And then that person meet at homes. But yeah, like so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, cool. I would tell somebody when you have that challenge. When you say that challenge, go look at your spreadsheet and tell me how many you actually did like that. And it was like, oh yeah, I closed 13 deals and I did 1 new build. And I'm like, okay, cool. Still do your 1 new build. Like the one you do, that's not all in. That's kind of the point. Because when you have a showing partner, it's kind of all in. You're salaried. When you have like your network of agents, it's just like, okay, this one's my mom. Like I maybe want to do this, not meaning you think that you have to give good service, but you're like, that's genuinely the person that I would have already went and hung out with for 3 hours. So like, why wouldn't I go do this now with them? So I just think there's no all in, all out. And I have to also note, because I get a lot of comments on, well, Chris, like I get a lot of, family, friends, people from my church, like they want to use me. And I just raised my hand first. I'm like, yep, that's like 86% of my business. Like it's not like all online leads. It's a lot of referrals. And
Yeah.
I had my showing partner show my mother homes in Blackstone. That's in North Peoria when she was in town from Oklahoma. And
Uh-huh.
my mom texted me the next day and said, and she's ran, as you know, like high level businesses, sold them, retired. She is she's a solid person on like, she would know your structure of a company because she's had hundreds of employees. And
Mhm.
she texted me and said, that kid represents you so well for your company. And she knows what I'm trying to accomplish. And so
Yeah.
I looked at that. I'm like, man, I went over to Craig's house the other day, or I went to one of his sister. He referred me to his sister and he was over there. Right. And I had helped him buy his house. I've never seen it. Well, when we went there, I walked and he's like, Chris, so nice to see you. I said, what's up, man? He's like, hey, also, how's Nathan? And so
Nice.
here's the thing. I want to take away these limiting beliefs. So they would have thought I didn't actually help Craig. I've never seen Craig's house. Okay.
Right. Right.
But I'm at now 6 months later, I'm at his sister's house with him there for a listing that he referred me to.
Mm-hmm.
And then asked me, how's Nathan? So when people are like, well, am I going to lose the relationship? I'm like, no, you actually build it up better because they got a better service. He
Right.
texted me the other day and said, hey, Chris, I just want to let you know I love your operation and how you work. And I'm like, because you get texts from my assistant every other day that says, do you have any questions? Can we help? Anything you need from Chris? Like they get a text from Kylie. They get a text. Like it's something that it's where it's not oh, they're disconnected from Chris. They're almost like, hey, have you ever, Dave, had a lot of work where you've looked up one day and you're like, oh man, like I probably should have texted that client 2 days ago. Like there was
Yeah.
probably a stage in your life. Like I did that many times and it's like, that's all getting eliminated now where it's like people are keeping up with the workload. So as
Right.
you go, they're actually getting better service. They're not
My,
getting
my,
a 2 days where
my
they don't get heard
buyers,
from.
yeah, my buyers are getting way better service from me right now, hands down. Hands down. They're getting the better version of me and they're getting better service. So that is it. So one of the one of the downsides, like you mentioned, is you've got this company representation. Well, when you have 900 agents at your service, you don't know really who's going to give you that representation of your own company. So that's set up in my consultation too. I basically tell them, hey, I co-own a brokerage, one of the biggest brokerages in the country, and we've got a lot of agents that love, love, love showing houses, and this is what they do for me. But they're just keep in mind they're new at this, and so they can't answer a lot of questions. They're not going to be able to write a contract for you, and so I just set up those
Mhm.
expectations. Like when I go to the doctor's office, I know who to ask questions to. I never ask the front desk about something on my MRI. Like, what does that mean? Right? Because I know that's the wrong person to ask. And I'm not disappointed that my doctor didn't check me in. Right. So we just have to look at that business. Now, I would highly discourage anybody from comparing their real estate business to a doctor's office. That's just going to put you, I think, in bad light with your client. But I'll use things like airlines, or I'll use things like even like a chiropractor. Like I don't want to say I'm a doctor, but I like the airline analogy, or chiropractor, or even a dentist. Like people can see that, but don't start saying, oh, I'm like a doctor. Don't ever do that. But we are okay with getting served by other people as long as we're getting served. But if I
Mhm.
walk into a doctor's office and I'm waiting 34 minutes because the doctor's like, when I'm done with this patient, I'll be right out to check you in. Nobody's happy with that. Like, so we got to get that through our mind that we, like you said, we can serve people with other people. So
And we don't do it in any, like, we even as like realtors have so many things, like you said, so many things around us, and not even these like maybe professional services you're talking about. But I even think guy I talked to about building my pool in my backyard. I mean, it was all subcontracted, right? Like everything was probably subcontracted and it all got done. Good, looks good. Guy came over to do epoxy on my floor. The sales rep came over and we talked and he's like, hey, I'm going to start in 3 days. I'm like, totally good. He's like, can you have your garage open at this time on this date? And I'm like, yep, it's going to happen. I had my garage open. I walked out to that day to leave. My car was out of the garage. I went to go to an appointment. I looked, there was 3 dudes in there working. He wasn't
yeah,
in there. He wasn't in there. I drove off and because here's the
I'm
deal.
disappointed.
They they he started the day he told me he was starting. I didn't never ask, are you going to be there? I came back that day. My garage was cracked like he said it was going to be. He said, hey, the garage is going to be cracked when we leave. Just keep it cracked all night. You cool with that? And I'm like, yeah. So he had this consultation of, hey, I'm starting this day.
Yeah.
Leave your garage open that day. I left that day. It was done. He said, hey, when you get back home, you're probably going to see the garage is cracked. Keep it there. It was there. He said, hey, they're going to be coming back the next day. It's a 3-day job. Third day, they're packing up. They're all good. Boom. Never even once thought about it. I actually saw his trailer over at a restaurant the other day that he drives around in. And I looked at that and I got out. My wife and I were going into Target and I looked at him and said, that's the guy that actually met us one time because we inquired on the website and everyone else did his work. And my wife looked at me and said, oh, here's the cool part. My wife said, we've referred him like 8 epoxies in the last probably 2 months.
Nice.
So she didn't even know I was the consultation and setting it up. She just saw the final product at the end. She didn't even, but she knew the final product and she knew who did the work. So she's already referring. So it just shows you, like, in our world, real estate, like if we go there, deliver, a consultation, tell them what we're going to do, people do that. We give them a good service throughout the transaction. And then we probably follow up with them at the end, ask them how we did.
Yeah.
Then you've got, that's where they're like, oh, like, I'm going to refer this person over there because that's a good operation. I don't think people are like, oh, I've got to refer Dave Z. They're just like, hey, Dave Z, sells houses. Let's call him. We'll call his office.
Yeah. So here's what I'm hearing, like, in all that. Here's what I would tell somebody is you've got to shift. If you're listening to this, you're like, no, this won't work for me, or I don't know why it would work. I would just say, shift your mindset to understanding your value.
Mm-hmm.
Your value as a realtor, my value is I'm a great negotiator. I really like to get my way when it's a listing or a buyer, and that's terms, price, repairs. My value is having all the contractors I have, just the experience. And I associate no value, not 1%, to opening the door and showing a house. So I don't feel bad about it. Mm-hmm. So if you're tied up and hung up on, well, my value is in opening the door, then reach out to me. You can join my network and I'll pay you to go show houses. But that is not where my value lies. And I know that my airline pilot, his value is not in checking your bags in, and his value is not in serving drinks. Now, we're not saying that's not valuable. We're not demeaning or looking down, but I'm just saying that pilot is crystal clear on his mission and his value. And I'm crystal clear on my mission and my value. And doing those things would detract from my value. It would not add to it. So I don't need to be compensated for it. In fact, I can pay others to do it. And, I always say my best car buying experience is when I bought my Tesla, because it was just super cool. I got a cashier's check, flew out there. It was waiting for me. Like, my Falcon doors were open in this hangar. It took me 8 minutes to buy my car. And not once did I say, where's Elon Musk? Like, I was pretty sure I was going to get a photo op with him. Like, no, like, it just wasn't part of the expectation, but he delivered a phenomenal car buying experience for me and a great car. Right. So I have a ton of respect for him and appreciate what he's done. And I wasn't disappointed that he wasn't there. I'm not comparing myself to or doctors or pilots, but.
Well, I like that you said, I like that you said, like, your values or I think even that's another thing that people want to go deep on, is just like, what's important for them outside of work, and I think like that's a challenge for people. Cause like, I noticed, like, when I talked to you, when you told me, I was like, why do you do this model when I first met you? And you're like, your first thing you said to me was, Chris, I have 5 kids, a wife. I want to be a good dad. You know what I mean? I'm like, you didn't even have to tell me a lot of words. Like, this didn't have to be a 30-minute session. You said, I have 5 kids, all under the age of like 14, I think you told me.
Yep.
Okay. And then you said, I want to be a good dad and I'm a husband. I'm like, that's a lot of roles. That's a lot. I mean, so when someone says
out on dates every week, like, I want to be with my kids, I want to take them to dinner.
So when you and then one of the next things I heard, in our first hour meeting we ever had, where we met at your office, you next went into, I remember you talking about, like, oh, I go to Maine for once a month every year.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there in my head, I'm thinking, but then you also talked a lot in that meeting on how, like, you wanted to make a lot of money every year because you like to give.
Yeah.
But so, like, you took all that and you're like, all right, like this is his home life and what he wants to do. And he's gone for a month and he's got 5 kids. And then but he still wants to make a lot of money to give. And making a lot of money to give would mean selling a lot of real estate. And he works a lot of buyers. So I remember talking to Frank Klesitz one time and he said, Chris, how you just said that to me acted as if you made it sound as if you've got to trade one for the other. Stop.
Yeah.
Don't trade anything for anything. Write down. Don't say this is what I want in my personal life. This is what I want in my business. And then say, all right, well, my personal life is going to be super, super cool, but my business isn't. Or my business is going to be super, super cool, but my personal life isn't. Like it's not a trade-off. It can be a full.
It's not either or.
It can be a full-on blitz of like, and then because after I met you, I talked to Frank and he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, I like taking 20 vacations, bro. Like that's a fun. I got it. Even if it's 2 and 3 day trips, I got to do it. So I don't have kids, so I couldn't resonate with that feeling, right? And I don't usually leave for a month. But what I thought was cool, dude, was you said I've got 5 kids, I'm a husband, and then I heard, I go to Maine for a month, and then I heard that you want to make a lot of money to give, and I knew instantly, I was like, okay, his currency's made in real estate. Yeah. And that was you telling me in a weird way, or not a weird way, but it was you telling me, and I interpret it as this is a principled person who has values that he's not willing to trade, but he's also a good businessman. And we sometimes see good businessmen who are divorced, kids never know them, super overweight, or you see the opposite. You see people that are, super fit and they've got really good relationships with their kids, but like their kids can't go to college because they don't make enough, the parents don't make enough money. I liked meeting you because you opened up the world that like a lot of money can come through my door. I can be a principled person and have this in my family. But you sat down and then you said what was your thing you started off with when you took that test? You're a wonder. Is it a wonder?
Oh, yeah. So it's wonder and galvanizing.
So you took that scenario and said, this is what I want. And you wondered and you said, hey, if I want both, how can I make it happen? So I think these are answers that are coming out of you asking a big question and wanting to live this life and saying, I can still do it all. And when I met you, and I'm thankful for that, like, that's when I was like, okay, cool. Like I used to live that life, dude. Like it was, whoa, we'll go on vacations when I'm not busy. Like how enjoyable could that vacation be if you're going on it when you're not busy? Like it was this catch 22 of like, cool, now we're on the beach and we're here because we've been slow for 3 weeks. That's fun, right?
You got nothing to do.
And then the opposite was like, oh, okay, well, like we can't go on vacation when we're busy. So then I'm in the office for 4 months and you're making $170,000 a month. And you're like, oh, I'd really kind of like a beach, So it's like this catch 22 where you're just like, like you're on vacation because I can only go when I'm slow, or I got to find these pockets of time where there's no clients, or I got to find these pockets of time where, I can disappoint this one client because I think they're the one that will accept that. Like it just was this battle of like, that's when I met you and I said, and I've told many people this and I want to be clear on it, is when I met you, I was financially secure. Right. And I was emotionally in my business a little bit squirrely. And I'm clear when I say emotionally, like not in my personal life, not at all in my personal life. I'm talking about when I walked into my office for that 4 hours a day, I was emotional, a little bit like, when I walked out and went to my wife and hung out at home, it was great. Clear there. But like, that's where I was like, I'm looking, I was kind of like, this is weird. Like I'm in this catch 22, get a lot of work, no vacations, can't enjoy life. Or it's flip-flop. I'm enjoying life, taking vacations, no work. And you feel like you've got to do this teeter-totter of like, and then finally just look up and I can live all of that at one time. I can close houses, I can go on vacations, and I feel now like I can post my vacations while I'm online because my clients aren't like, oh, well, he can't show today because he's in the beach, Now I think that's the biggest struggle I think some people have with their clients following them is like, when I'm in a restaurant today, my clients don't say like, oh, this is why he's not with us today. They're thinking like
it might be me or somebody else. Now I say somebody else, right?
Yeah. So thank you. I want to just let people know like how when someone comes in your life like you did, like you opened up, you solved a huge problem because I was sitting in my office and I'm like, I want both, God. Like, how do I get both of these? I think I deserve both. That's kind of what I said. I don't even know if that's the right way, but I was leaning into it like, I think that I should be able to have both these. I don't think I should have to sacrifice one or the other. And it was you who challenged me. And I'm thankful for this conversation now because I'm comfortable doing good. But now you've opened it up where it's like, okay, are we doing some tweaks here? And if my showing partner is listening to this,
Yeah.
You're good.
And it could be and in both, right? It never has to be either or and all these things. And let's be clear, like I didn't have this so this is how my leveraged life happened when I was busy and being a young father. I just didn't work buyers at all. So you talk about just being a bad business person. There were times, and we talk about it, your list counts could really grow because of short sales. So
Yeah.
I always carried 30 to 40 to 50 listings, which anybody listed today is like, oh my goodness, 50 listings. Well,
That
when they're
was
short sales, they take a long time, right? But that was my dilemma back in like 2009, 10, and 11. I'm having 40 listings. I'm calling 80 banks. I'm doing all this. And somebody would call me and say, oh, hey, can I go see this home of yours that you got listed on Friday? I'm like, have at it. They're like, well, can you meet us there? I'm like, absolutely not. They're like, well, aren't you the realtor? And I was at home working from home with a wife. I mean, I remember it's super hard to be a stay-at-home parent. And I think to be a stay-at-home mom, like we heard a psychologist the other day say, like being a mother of a young children is more stressful than like 98 of all occupations. Like unless you're an ER, like, and I believe it, like when I take the kids, when Julia would leave for a vacation and I had four of them, under the age of 6 or something, I mean, like that was the hardest part of my day besides real estate. So I'm at home. I'm remembering, when you see your wife breastfeeding and then a 2-year-old crying and she's crying, everybody's crying. You're like, I'm just going to stay home today and work. So there was a lot of necessity in my life to create leverage, and I didn't do it. I just forego for like 2 years. I sold real estate without a team, without working buyers, because I was overwhelmed and I was making really good money. So I was just like, how about I just don't do it? So it didn't serve anybody. It didn't give me as much money to give. It didn't help me reach out to others and serve others because I was just wrapped up in my business. So nobody was helping me. I was working from home, just at a little brokerage, and I didn't care. So I have done leverage poorly for the bigger part of my career. And then my first buyer's agent showed up because I think at the time, like 38 listings knocked on the door and said, hey, our broker said you could use some help. You have all these listings. And and she's been with me ever since. That was 7, 8 years ago. But if I had the model I had in place today, it wouldn't have needed to be that way. And so it's okay that I've gone through that. And so I want to accelerate agents' their learning curve, and not have to go through like figuring out leverage 18 years into it, or figuring out the way I did, which was just make less money. Like you said, like Frank told you, you can either only have one or the other. So can I go through those 5 laps of the swim super quick, just to give people perspective?
Yeah.
I know we're going long here, but edit it down, right? But
there's no editing done by this man. The second Kylie has to edit this show, it's done. It's done. Yeah. I'm like, what you say is going on.
Cool. All right. So this is the concept that I want every realtor to just drive home in their business. You have 5 laps to the swim that you've got to complete, like a relay race, if you want to do real estate really well. One is lead generation. You got people, you got to get people into your life, and there's a million iterations of how to do that. The mechanism doesn't matter, right? People get stuck on that. Is it PPC? Is it Zillow? Is it Sphere? Is it door knocking, open houses? The answer is yes, it is, right? So there's coaching that you need on that. Then the second leg is lead conversion. You got to know how to take people and convert them into your clients, right? And there's in all of these can involve leverage. That's what I want realtors to know. And if you're running a team and you're listening to this, you're like, well, yeah, I have that because I have agents that do this for me. Like I'm a rainmaker who does nothing. And when I audit those businesses, there's very little profit that's going to the rainmaker who has traditional leverage in all of those, meaning pay an ISA, I buy leads from Zillow, I give them to the agents close those. I'll tell you, I pay a lot of money to be in masterminds. I'm 6 figures into masterminds just in the last few years. Most of those businesses are happy to make 8 to 10%. So the rainmaker, the team does $2 million in GCI and they're making like 160 grand.
It's so much work. It's so much work for so little money. Like so much pressure for so little money.
But they're proud of themselves saying, well, I have this leverage. I can tell you a better way to have leverage. Like running that business is a lot of work, like you said. So I'm spending the same amount of work, making a lot more of it. And I think it's a better life. So we have those 2 legs, right? Our third leg of the swim is the consultation. That's either the listing presentation or buyer presentation. Then the fourth leg of the swim is actually doing real estate. It is showing houses, going to inspections, doing all of that. Our most time consuming portion of it is that. That's the fourth leg. Fifth and final leg is to convert those clients into referrals or repeat business. Right. So those are the 5 areas you have to master. This is my advice to anybody who wants to live a better life, make more money, have a bigger impact on their world, whether that's their families, children, God. Like, I believe I believe we're made for greatness and to have a great impact. So if you just stay in the consultation and conversion, because you can outsource conversion to ISAs and other things, but if you're just a solo realtor, get it inside your head that you only have to do the consultation and the lead gen or conversion. Everything else can be done by other people who love doing those things, and your volume will go up exponentially. So I've had somebody tell me, well, then what do I do? If I'm not doing that, what do I do? You do more of the things that will move the needle in your business, which is making more phone calls, doing more open houses, going to more lunches with, like, you should, if you have somebody wants to see a home at 11, you book that to my network of agents and they go show at 11, you go have a lunch at 11 and get a referral, pour into somebody.
Or, I've been even challenging myself this anymore is like, go sit outside and tan at 11 o'clock or
There's a
go
lot of reasons
or go hike or go, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's cool. And I think it's a good conversation to have because everybody always, Ben Kenny said it. I don't know if I'll say it the correct way, but he's like, there's leverage sometimes where you hire somebody to make, you're just trying to make more dollar per hour. And then there's like there's like freedom leverage, I think he calls it. So he's like, there's times when like you need leverage because you're actually trying to get out of that job and you need it with that same time, you need to go do something that makes more money. And like, then there's times in your life where it's like, hey, like you're paying that person to do that job and you're not looking during that time to go make more money per hour. Like you're genuinely going out and living, like you're living your life. Like that, like the whole point of all this is to, like, I think I've noticed that my identity for so many years, dude, was real estate, like real estate. Now as I'm getting older, I'm like, whoa, like this can't be your identity. Like this is a really cool business. It's fun. It's where you get, it's your passion, but like, it's not like who you are. Like when you're 75 and you're sitting down with people in a room and talking, like, are you only going to be at 80 in masterminds where we're talking real estate? Or like, did you build some friendships where like, and did you live a life where you're like sitting there, you're sitting at 80 and you're talking about like, oh, when I was 39, like that's what I did, but in a way where you're just not like crushed. Like that's what you still have to always do.
Let me tell you a real quick like stretch here, and then I'll let you wrap it up. But like this epitomizes once you get this clicking, right? And I am mentioning virtual assistants and things like this, but dude, a virtual assistant's $4 an hour. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're living a good life with $4 an hour. Like my VA, she's been with me a year and a half. I've given her a raise, so she's making a little bit more, but she bought a home. She owns a home because of me. So she, I did, and this was just recent. And so this, like I spent 5 nights in Cabo, and then I spent 3 nights skiing and sledding with my kids. And then I spent 2 nights in Disney, all in like, I don't know, it's like a 12-day stretch or something. And I put four of those in escrow. And when you have all the right systems in place, it was not a chore and it wasn't distracting from my vacations, right? Because when you do the right consultation, and obviously all of this starts with a lot of leads coming in. So that's another conversation. Like I could teach you, and I could teach anybody how to get a lot of leads coming in, but you don't want a lot of leads coming in if you got to go work it, right? So by having my right systems in, by training my consumers and my clients, like you're going to have an amazing experience, but not if you screenshot me. If you screenshot me, it's going to be, this is where it won't work. Right. So when we teach them and consult them to book the showing directly on my site, and I send them a 30-second video of how to do it, and I go, your life's going to be amazing if you do this, because what's the number one complaint most people have with their realtors? Like Google it. The number one complaint is they feel like their realtor doesn't have time for them. They don't answer them. So if we remove those constraints, so all of my people did as I asked, because people will do it when you show them the benefit. They all scheduled it on the website. That went to my VA. My VA scheduled it in showing time, reached out to our network of agents. The agents booked it. The VA told the client, Chris Bowers is going to meet you. Here's his picture. Here's his number. Boom, boom, boom. All of that. And it wasn't the ones, that if they see the home, they didn't like it, that I didn't need to be bothered by it. Would we all agree? Like if I'm in Cabo and someone's like, I didn't like that home, doesn't even need to get back to me. The only things that need to get back to me are the ones that like it. So then the VA follows up and says, hey, do you have any questions? And they're impersonating me or sometimes coming from them. Hey, how did it go with those homes? Do you want to talk about any of them? If you do, book a time in my calendar and let's chat. And then I would see a time click in my calendar. And I was like, sweet, Chris obviously found a home that he liked. We get on the call. They like the home. I then show my assistant knows how to run comps, sends me a good comp coming back. And then I go, I think we should offer this, this, and this. And I go, let's do it. All that's recorded. So I voice record these things. All of my calls are recorded. And then I just send that recording to my assistant and it outlines what the offer is going to be. The offer gets written, sent to me. I preview it really quick and I can do it on my phone. I'm like, nope, we missed the warranty. We missed this, send it back. Then it gets approved, sent off, it's in escrow, they deliver it. Like that is what life can look like. Mm-hmm. And I had 5 nights alone with my wife in Cabo. Then I had 3 nights alone with my 5 children without my wife. And we had an amazing time. And then I had some time in Disney. And all of that can keep clicking and I'm living what I want to live. That's what I want, is those time with those kids and my wife. And I'm getting both. I'm serving those people. We got amazing deals. Like I got one home that's closing that I negotiated on that trip. And the seller is writing a check for $40,000 to sell our home. Like we beat them to a pulp to buy this home. Like we beat them up at the offer table and then we beat them up on inspections. And I think I can negotiate better than a lot of realtors being in that position financially. Like, honestly, like I think I have 21 escrows. If it's 21 or 20, does it matter? Or 19? Like it matters for my clients, but I'm not in a compromised situation. Like I can negotiate like crazy because I have nothing to lose. And that's a tough person to negotiate against. Where the other agent, my assistant will be like, hey, the other agent sold 5 homes last year. They have everything to lose. And so it puts me in a better spot. But that was just a glimpse into what I want to teach agents to do. Go do whatever you want to do. If you want to do a missions trip, if you want to serve charity, wherever you want your time to be, you can still sell a ton of real estate, serve your people, and be like, for me, I want to be wherever I want, with whoever I want, whenever I want, and still sell real estate. So I got really clear on who I wanted to be. And it's just an amazing, it's amazing. Like I pinch myself when I'm like, man, I'm keeping 97% of the commission and I'm not physically there. It's a dream come true. So I ran numbers on, we gave you the numbers of what it would be on a buyer's agent. I ran it on a showing partner. Had I done a showing partner, 2 months of salary, because it's going to be January and February, it's $6,652 is what I would have paid with 1 month of salary at $3,000 plus my, payroll taxes. 5% of the commission would be $4,685. My gas reimbursement, $275. I would have given my showing partner $11,612 to do the same thing that I did for $1,337. It's a big difference. It's what is that? $10,275.
Well, it's such a big business move, man, and that's where, like what you said, the showing partner model, like that. No, those numbers would have still been great, right? Like that's. But here. No,
6.1.
Yeah, so I think the coolest part is like when people are like, "Hey, how do I retire?" or like, "How do I buy like rental properties?" And I'm like, sometimes it's just doing what like you did right there. It's like not they're thinking sell more homes. And I'm like, no, it could just be if you're selling 40 homes on this model, you could maybe sell 40 homes on this model and be making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 more, and that could be your rental property that you're buying every year. So like it's just I'm hopeful that this show just opened up people's minds to thinking. Like that's all I really want to do is I don't think there's any right in real estate. I don't think there's a lot of wrong. I think there's just a lot of ways, and whether you want to work listings, whether you want to work buyers, I think I'm always just trying to interview people who just they're thinking. And there's people who are going to listen to this and say, that's never going to work for me. And that's all good. There's going to be some people that are just like, whoa, that totally resonates with me. And I want to learn more about it. So how could people reach out to you if they were like, that dude is where I want to go? Like, I like what he's saying.
I would say reach out to you first. Yeah. Right. But then if they want to find me, email me, Dave@zteamaz.com.
Okay.
Or call me. I mean, I'll give you my cell phone, 480-332-6468. But I'd say reach out to you first because you know both of these.
Yeah, I do. And
I'm happy to
I'm in the middle
dive
of tweaking
into
stuff.
that stuff. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
happy
man.
to.
Well, Dave, dude, I thank you. I appreciate you. You're just, like I started this off, like you're just you think about things. I always look at my mentors that I've ever tried to subscribe to, is what I would say is like, first I'm like, okay, I first run through this thought process. Like, are they where they want to, like, are they where I want to be in my business? That's my first thing. Right. And then if it's yes, then I say, who are they as like a human being? And then that's second. And then I'm like, how is their like structure in their life look? And I think we can all get this, surface, but now that I know you more, I can see it. And I'm just like, so I thank you for being that mentor for me that has just, you're not much older, but like you're experienced in business. You're someone that I feel like I can always be, I can tell you like what I'm trying to accomplish. I think sometimes you challenge me. I think sometimes you're there just for support. And I'm super thankful for you. I know just ever since I've met you, I've been like a better husband just because I have the time. My life is better. I think my life thanks you. If my life texts you later and says thanks, that's my VA. So, but hey, I appreciate you, man. Just you do a lot of good for the real estate community, and I'm thankful for you.
Yeah, man. Well, it goes both ways. Everything you said, same thing about you, brother. So appreciate you. I'm glad we could do this. I hope we changed some lives today.
Cool, man. Have a good day, bud.
All right, you too. See ya.